Namaste, everyone, and a very warm welcome to one and all to the most eagerly awaited Design Thinking Award panel discussion. Design thinking is a methodology for creative problem solving. The goal of design thinking is to create ideas that better satisfy the desires and needs of consumers. Design thinking involves the understanding of the problem, the ideation of a possible solution, the prototyping, and the testing. The purpose of design ultimately is to improve the quality of life for people and the planet. Design is transforming the way leading companies create value. The focus of innovation has shifted from being engineering driven to design driven, from product centric to customer centric, and from marketing focused to user experience focused. For an increasing number of entrepreneurs, design thinking is at the core of effective strategy development and organizational change. With the vision to imbibe this 21st century skill in all Gear children, the Design Thinking Award was introduced by our chairman, Dr. M. Srinivasan, in the year 2019. To take this vision forward, we have developed this opportunity and platform to nurture creativity in problem finding and problem solving skills in all our Gear Cubs. The goal is to inculcate a design thinking habit in all our children. Today, we have the honor of having Dr. Mayank Mathur as our special guest of honor. Hailing from Rajasthan, Dr. Mayank has a PhD from Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow, and MBA from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. He has accumulated a wealth of field experience from working with organizations, namely Oracle, Cisco, SuccessFactors, SAP, BizWiz Technologies, and AutoGrid. He has co-founded e-commerce startup Cellular Bangalore. Dr. Mathur's research has been published in top-rated journals across applied data sciences and industrial economics. He has worked as a visiting professor of data analytics and decision science at Narsi Monji Institute of Management Sciences, International School of Management, Alliance Business Academy, and Mahindra University. He is currently working in Flame University, Pune, as Associate Professor of Practice in the Department of Operations and Analytics. A very warm welcome to you, Dr. Mayank. Thank you so much for gracing the occasion.
Thank you, Preeti ma'am. Thanks for those kind words.
I would also like to welcome our chairman, sir, Dr. M. Srinivasan, Savi ma'am, Executive Director, Mr. Sarvesh Srinivasan, our beloved principal, Mrs. Nandini Bhatt, Vice Principal, Naglakshmi ma'am, and IP ma'am, all my fellow mentors, and the lovely audience. I would also like to introduce our two internal judges for the panel discussion. We have Mr. Sarvesh Srinivasan, Executive Director of GEAR. He is fully involved in the smooth operations of the school and has enabled the amazing infrastructure of the school. He is an architect and passionate about design and living sustainably. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, Abhinav.
We have Mrs. Aarti Balasubramaniam, our senior mathematics mentor. He has been a mentor of GEAR for the past 2 years and has been involved in all school activities in order to make learning exciting and enjoyable for senior students. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am.
Namaste, Preeti ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our previous year's winners. We have with us Pranav Agrawal, Lakshana and Vibha Arvind. I would like Pranav to please share with us your experience, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me at this occasion. With regards to my last year's experience, it was actually quite an eye-opening experience with the rest of the panelists giving very important insights with regards to the questions and like ways of thinking involved. Like I learned a lot of new things and the way they were applied as well. So, well, I hope that this year's panelists will be able to produce a very productive discussion too.
Thank you, Pranav. Lakshana?
Namaste, I'm Lakshana. And yeah, last year, when I was part of the panel, I talked about how we use design thinking in the field of medicine because that's where I want to pursue my career in. And yeah, I'm still leaning towards that direction. However, I haven't done anything much in that field yet because I haven't this year I was supposed to go to college, but my college has not started yet because of a lot of counseling issues. While all my friends are writing their first semester, I haven't even gone to college yet. But design thinking in last year's main panel, as Pranav said, there were a lot of different insights by different people. So I learned to listen to others to incorporate their ideas with my own. And in the past few months, I've been teaching biology on this site called schoolhouse.world, which I actually got to know through Gear. And I've done this for about 6 months. And I'm really in awe of how teachers can take online classes and understand where the kids are. I've tried to use different strategies and see what works and how different students can understand how to online learning. And yeah, I'd like to continue that.
Thank you, Lakshana. I really wish you go to college soon. Vibha, Arvind?
Namaste, ma'am. Thank you. Namaste, Srinivasan sir, Savi ma'am, Nandini ma'am, Sarvesh sir, and all my mentors. So I was obviously a part of the discussing panel in 2020, and I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to everyone's, insights and observations and experiences. I'm right now a second year student at NIFT Bengaluru. I'm pursuing fashion design and visual communication. There are two things that I just wanted to quickly summarize as my learnings over the past 2 years. One is to stay completely true to who I am and where I come from and never leave that. The second thing is to maintain the highest standards of ethics and, like we mentioned, sustainability, and be of purpose and create purpose and value, generate some value through what you're doing. So thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure seeing everyone again. I truly miss coming to Gear and seeing and being a part of that beautiful environment that I've grown up in. And all the best to all the participants this year, and looking forward to an engaging discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vibha. Thank you, Pranav. Thank you, Lakshana. Today is also the occasion of Basant Panchami, and you have shared words of wisdom with us. Thank you. So yes, yet another moment of great pride to introduce the top 10 for our panel discussion. As I call out your names, please turn on your camera and introduce yourselves. Treya Anand, grade 8.
Hi everyone, namaste. My name is Shreya and I'm from grade 8. So as an avid writer, I believe in the power of storytelling. And to me, design is a way I can convey this in a much simpler way to a broader spectrum of people. So I found this to be true when I campaigned for disabled people. And in that campaign, I could see that well-designed brochures and pamphlets had a greater impact on people than any detailed essay ever could. So I would like to thank you for this amazing opportunity, and I look forward to learning many new things from my fellow panelists.
Thank you, Shreya. Krita Goel, grade 8.
Namaste, my name is Krita Goel and I study in grade 8. And I'm very happy and very blessed to have this opportunity today to come and be one of the panelists, because it's not about winning, but about the opportunities and the achievements and different information that I learned from all the other panelists, different experiences that I take away today. Design thinking is something which enables different people to come up with their own ideas and produce something that is not only good for the society, but it also helps you personally to grow into a better person. I'm very blessed to have this opportunity today, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Akshata. Akshara Aithal, grade 9.
Namaste, everyone. I am Akshara from grade 9. I'm supposed to talk about my hobbies, but instead, after thinking about that for about 45 minutes, I decided I would rather talk about myself. So here goes. I am a full-time fangirl, which means not just an avid reader, but one who completely obsesses over anything she reads. I'm also the kind of person who has a song to soundtrack literally everything I do. I am also a 10-meter rifle shooter, and I also very recently just became a national shooter. And I'm just I'm keen about the sport. Okay, at this point, I'm just showing off. I should stop. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to this discussion and learning so much more about design thinking and sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshara. You were not showing off. We loved to hear this. Next, Aduri, grade 9.
Namaste everyone, I am Adya Dhuri from 9G. I feel grateful today as I got selected for the panel discussion round of Design Thinking Challenge and got a chance to share my thoughts with such a prestigious panel. And my interests are solving the Rubik's Cube, playing the keyboard, playing badminton, arts and drawing. So Design Thinking Challenge made me think out of the box and to find solutions that would help the community. You have to immerse yourself in the problem and you can only then come up with different ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Adya. Abhijit Dikshit, grade 10.
Namaste everyone, my name is Abhijit Dikshit. I am in grade 10. As someone who is very passionate about holding the camera, whether it's through photography or videography, cameras are a great way to showcase problem solving and design thinking per se. And I thank all of you for having me here today, and I'm looking forward to having a great discussion.
Thank you, Abhijit. Akshata Amara, grade 10.
Namaste everyone, I am Akshata Amara. I am currently studying in grade 10 and I am really grateful to be here because I tend to make a habit out of philosophical discussions, but this platform gives me an opportunity to act on what I discuss and shift from a problem space to a solution space. Looking at problems from one level up is a major part of design thinking, but it's also interpreting facts in your own way and trying to identify cyclicity in everything. So you try to exploit weaknesses and fix weak points, which is one of my favorite things to do. So design is not how about things look or feel, it's about how things work. So I'm really eager to look at the rapid ideation this discussion will inspire and the implementations of the seeds that we sow today. So once again, I thank you all for the opportunity to be introduced to so many diverse thought processes.
Thank you, Akshata. Shri Abhinav Balcha, grade 11.
Namaste everyone. My name is Abhinav and I'm from grade 11. So design thinking for me is something that allows me to mix scientific thinking, methodical thinking with creativity, and very few things offer that. And therefore, I'm very happy to be part of this panel discussion that allows me to do so. I'm hoping to learn a lot from today's discussion, and whatever happens, I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhinav. Next, we have Amirta Apollo, grade 11.
Good morning and namaste, everyone. I'm Amirta Apollo, a student of class 11M and an aspiring entrepreneur. I would like to talk about how design thinking has changed my life. Up until 9th or even 10th grade, I had a more rote approaching to learning, and that really bothered me. But once I started learning about and practicing design thinking, I felt like I was changing to a more cognitive approach and I became much more explorative. This also led me to create an acronym for myself, CEO, which stands for Curiosity, Empathy, and Observation. This acronym helps me in problem solving and design thinking. I would also like to express my gratitude to everyone for making me a part of this panel discussion. I'm really excited to listen to everyone's thoughts and insights. All the best, everyone.
Thank you, Amirta. Love the CEO, Amirta. Next, we have Akshit Srivastav, grade 12.
Oh, hello. Namaste. My name is Akshit, and I'm in grade 12, as Preeti ma'am said. I really think design is something everybody can do. And firstly, I want to thank the teachers who were the judges of round 1 and 2 to get me into this panel. So I believe that these days, the ability to think logically and critically is extremely important. And I feel design is like the perfect package to present this because we have problems everywhere we see. And just cribbing about problems won't help us. So the design process is really like a fundamental thing in the solution aspect. And also I feel design is incomplete without a group or a team. So you can bounce your ideas off each other. So yeah, I'm looking forward to learning from the panel as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshit.
Hi everyone. As you probably heard, my name is Naina Rajesh. I'm a student of 12th grade and I'm currently in the humanities stream. I'm really honored to have this opportunity to interact with such a group of talented panelists as clearly described by their own introductions. Especially since this is, even though this is a competition, it's collaborative, and I'm really interested in being part of that key element of not only design thinking, but problem solving in general. So I hope to contribute to the best of my abilities.
Thank you, Nayana. Though this is a competition, and competition sure does bring the best in each one of us, but each one of you already, you sound like a winner. Congratulations and all the very best to each and every one of you. A few instructions for our panelists today. Please keep your videos on and please keep yourself on mute. And once the questions are asked by the judges, use the raise hand option for your turn to speak. Keep your answers crisp and to the point. And again, once you've finished talking, if you wish to again come back to a certain point, please use the raise hand option. And before we move on to start with the panel discussion, a few guidelines for our audience. Please ensure that your audio and videos are turned off. In case of any questions or opinions you want to share as the panel discussion is on, please wait for the panel discussion to get over, and then we will open the floor for the lovely audience. With that, now I would request our Honorable Chairman, sir, to start the panel discussion. Over to you, sir.
Namaste to all of you, and I'm really very thrilled to see the winners of erstwhile competitions for the last 3 years from inception. Particularly, I'm really amazed to see the way they talk about how they've been doing for the last couple of years or maybe 1 year. We want to create a kind of spirit on our campus of design thinking. That is the whole aim of this program. And I'm really very pleased to see Vibha all the time smiling, though everybody is smiling, but she is all the time emitting grace of smile. I think that's wonderful. All of you do that. Coming to our business today, you know, when I was studying, we learned creative problem solving. Today, the creative problem solving has almost emerged into design thinking by adding certain dimensions. Like when we were doing creative problem solving, the element of empathy was not talked about. But today, that's one of the important aspects of design thinking. So I'd like all of you to share with us how design thinking would evolve from the roots. What are your roots? What has been the roots of design thinking? And where do you think it will go in the next couple of years? So I want you to give a review of what you feel was design thinking maybe 50 years before, and what it would be maybe by the time you all take up work, maybe next 5 years, 10 years. Please share your thoughts. Don't hesitate to share it. However limited it is, you can just share your feelings and thoughts. Go ahead.
I'll take an opportunity to raise my question for the panel. And it's actually around the topic design thinking primarily. And I just wanted to understand what our understanding is about this particular uh, uh, topic which we talk about. So when we say design thinking, are we only looking at the aspects which interests us, or is it like a holistic view across the horizon in the other dimensions as well? Like when we think of design thinking, we only think of our careers, our next steps in our education. Like for example, we discussed about people graduating from the school, getting into the education, and so on. But design thinking is a concept which primarily is related to our day-to-day lives as well. So could somebody put light on the aspects which are not only limiting ourselves to only thinking from a career perspective, but generally in our lives, how design thinking helps us and takes us to the next level of our intellects?
It's an advice to all the children. Don't get worried. What comes to your mind, I should say, design it in a way and present it. That's all. I'm sure you all know something about it. You use your mind and then present it. Yes. Now we have got people.
Yes, Akshara, you may begin.
Yes, thank you. The question
I
was
can see
extremely
raised hand.
interesting. The question I found extremely interesting. And I think when it comes to design thinking, one should be extremely open-minded and take in solutions, look at problems that are different from just your career path. I think personal success is important, but then the success of the entire race or the entire world is also important. So I guess a problem I would talk about right now is the problem of increased carbon emissions and global warming. And while sustainability and sustainability is really important, and right now for the career path, people are choosing the easiest option out, which is not exactly which is not beneficial for our future. So I think rather than looking at your own career, your own success, you should look at how the future will be impacted, and make decisions based on that. So in design thinking, I think it's really important to take into consideration people around you, people you're going to affect, and your future. So.
Shri Abhinav, you may go next.
Yes. So I feel keeping aside our career or our job opportunities with respect to design thinking, on a day-to-day basis, people have a particular viewpoint that they stick to and approach everything from that fixed viewpoint that they have developed over the years. And that is not always the right thing to do. And I think design thinking enables me to attack a problem from different viewpoints and different angles and not stick to the one fixed way of thinking. It helps me be more flexible in approaching problems and therefore finding solutions.
Right. So I think for me, the whole concept of design thinking is it helps you go one level up. This means you're looking at it from the perspective of a third person. You don't have to use specifically your own experiences and knowledge to solve the problem. You're looking at it from a solely logical and theoretical perspective. And like Srinivasan sir said, this may not have been the case 50 years ago, but today the first step of design thinking is empathy. And that means that the first step is understanding the problem in a completely logical way. This means that you already isolate yourself from what's affecting you in your surroundings. So that means you are reapplying your existing knowledge in a completely new way to a problem which does not have to concern you. I think if I take Akshara's example about climate change and global warming, the reason is lack of infrastructure. Now, I am in a very comfortable place. I come from a good family, so I won't understand the problems of the poor. But design thinking might help me understand the issues they face, maybe with mental health or poor facilities, in a completely different way. And that means that we can do sustainable development from the grassroots by equality. So that's one illustration of how design thinking could help.
Adya, you may.
Good answer. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So in design thinking challenge, you should think out of the box to find a solution that would help the community, and you should be empathetic. So the roots of my design thinking are from this school only. Like example, in seventh grade, I made a model of an eco-friendly house, which was mainly running on solar energy and natural resources. And in eighth grade, I made an earthquake-proof model, which was made up of straws. And I also participated in B-Box challenge, which is the logo design competition. And all of these activities, design thinking was involved in it. And also other routes are like many years back, it was present in different forms like ancient structures, like example stairwells in Rajasthan. In temples, they were like built with great design. And after a few years, design thinking, it would be very advanced. Like today, every small thing that you get has end user in mind. Like with artificial intelligence, gadgets will touch every field like medical, education, automatic cars, and so many things. And with electric cars, solar power will not harm the nature, but will make the best use of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Adya.
Amirta?
Yes, ma'am. So I think design thinking is like a practice, and it's not limited to only. Once we start practicing it, we can't just limit it to our professions. We'll start looking at it at every single problem, maybe even at our small problems at our home too. There was a really interesting story that I came upon recently. I'm not sure where it exactly happened, but there was this truck driver who thought he could go pass under a bridge completely, but then he couldn't, and the truck got stuck. So there were a lot of employers, the truck people, the manufacturers, the firemen who came to try and make it unjam from the bridge. But then none of them could apply design thinking and solve the problem. They all tried to solve it in their own fields and their own knowledge. But then a little boy who was cycling by came and told them to puncture the tires so they can unjam it out. And everyone was amazed at how a little boy could solve the problem that none of these professionals could. So this example, I feel, could really relate to how the profession part doesn't really matter, that if you practice design thinking as a whole, it will apply to all problems that you see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Treya?
Yeah, so to me, design thinking is a platform through which people can connect. Again, empathy is the principle, it's the basis of design thinking. I found that again and again, if you pursue something for the simplicity of it, you never really achieve anything amazing or wondrous out of what it is. So design thinking, you have to feel it inside you, you understand it, and you do it not yourself, but because there are other people you can understand through it. So I believe that the ultimate thing about design thinking is that you can connect with so many people and look at something that is beyond what you just see. So it's a very profound thing.
Abhijit?
So for me, design thinking, I was introduced to it in the 5th grade. And at that point, I really never understood where I was using it. But subconsciously, I've been using this method to solve problems for a very young age. As people have said it before in this panel itself, empathy is just the foundation of design thinking, of problem solving. Empathy is like the foundation to a very large building that is problem solving, and without that foundation, we are not able to build up on solving the problem. I think it's very important that people show care and compassion while solving problems and really put themselves in other people's shoes while being able to solve problems. This gives you a completely different perspective on the problem, and it doesn't limit us to our own worldview, and gives us a really broad perspective of the world that we might not be able to see unless we empathize.
Thank you, Abhijit.
Alankrita.
Thank you. So to me, design thinking is like a pearl of necklaces. These pearls are like small, attachments, small logical thinkings. They have empathy. They have the different, ideas of people, and when they come together, they form together to work towards the betterment of the society. Design thinking is not only about humanity, it's about how to exchange ideas and learn how to build a better mindset, learn how to experience and apply different intelligence to different places. In the world. Design thinking is actually in every one of us, and each one of us has used design thinking in our life at some point. So design thinking shouldn't necessarily be of particular profession, because each and every one of us already have it. We all know how to use it in our daily lives. Design thinking actually helps us all together to get together to reach a better place in humanity, to make life around us easier.
Yes, Alankrita, you're not so audible. Could you please raise your voice and maybe come towards the speaker and try to speak again?
Sorry about that. So, as I was saying, design thinking is a place, it's a platform where you learn how to share your ideas and develop them in order to make a better place for the entire society altogether. And as I was saying, it's like a bead of necklaces, and all these little beads help us form the better society. And altogether, design thinking is about new innovations and how to help humanity go to a bigger step. And at the end of the day, we all must achieve design thinking and use it in our daily lives. And that's how we all will be happier and a better place for everybody to live in. Thank you.
Akshit.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So as Dr. Mayank had asked initially, I wanted to mention that when he asked us about our understanding of design thinking, I wanted to clarify that design thinking is something like the previous panelists have also mentioned. We've been unknowingly using it from a very young age because it's a conjunction of multiple different types of thinking. So design thinking is a combination of logical thinking, creative thinking, and as Srinivasan sir had mentioned initially, it has a lot of empathy in it. So as Akshata had pointed out earlier, that there is a very third person point of view that's needed. And I feel that's very important because when you are in design thinking, you're not only looking how to solve your own problems, but everybody else around you as well. And for that, empathy is extremely important. And how does it help us in day-to-day life? Like I mentioned, all these different forms of thinking, you do use it in day-to-day life, and if you do develop these skills, it makes life easier. I just wanted to point out one example. I was part of CSIRO with Chairman Sir a few years ago, and in one of our classes, Chairman Sir had showed us this envelope opener which had a blade in it, and it was a very simple and effective concept because the blade, it didn't have any moving parts, nothing. All you had to do is just take the envelope and slice the top open. The reason Chairman Sir had showed us that was a lot of people, they accidentally even tear the letter inside the envelope while trying to open it up. So I just feel that's a very good display of how simple, logical, and creative thinking can easily fix a solution that many people face on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you, Akshit.
Thank you.
Yeah, so design thinking to me, above everything else, like people have said, is that it's basically human centric, which is the reflection of it comes through the form of empathy. So, whenever we think about problems that are presented in design thinking, it's always going to be from a human holistic perspective. And speaking of the only way to make it openly more collaborative in that way is through discussions, especially through incorporations of ideas from different fields, which is one of the main points of design thinking, where we have to incorporate ideas from a lot of different fields, especially when people come together and you incorporate their ideas, especially through their different backgrounds. It's That's how we come through the best possible solution. And I just wanted to add the point of the connecting long-term goals, like Sir had said, to day-to-day activities, as sustainability is a huge part of what we do in our day-to-day activities. So it's not just about what we do today, it's about what our long-term implications of those actions will be. So yeah, sustainability is also a huge part of our actions that are involved in design thinking today.
I think we don't have any more hands raised.
Yeah. Thank you, Naina.
Yeah, Aarti ma'am or Sunny, you have any question, please?
Sir, I think they were not able to hear your question, so they were waiting for you to kind of repeat your question so that we can answer.
Sorry, I was also a little distracted. Sorry for that. In fact, it's very difficult for me to redesign the question again. I was talking about roots. What are your roots which will kind of influence your ability to develop intuitive thinking? You understand the point? What are the roots to you achieving a kind of expertise in design thinking? If anybody did not understand, please raise your hands. You understand the word roots? Okay? Yeah. I'll also tell you why I asked this question. If it needs to be original, if it needs to be with you forever evolving, it has to be from your roots. If you just pick it up somewhere, you lose it somewhere. Okay? That's why I'm asking this. Is it very difficult? In that case, we'll just forget this question. Treya, what do you say? Is it difficult or you want time?
Sir, just a little bit of time would be nice.
Oh, time? Okay, you have enough time. What we will do, we will go to the next question so that you'll have time to think. And then, okay, Adya is ready. Let's go
Yes,
ahead.
sir. I just told this answer before, so I'll repeat it again. Like the roots of my design thinking, there were like many opportunities in previous grade related to design thinking, and the solution should be like technically feasible and economically viable. So in 7th grade, I made a model of eco-friendly house, which was like mainly running on the solar energy and natural resources. And in 8th grade, I made an earthquake-proof model, which was made up of straws. And I also participated in V-Box Challenge logo competition, and all these involved some kind of design thinking. And also many years back, design thinking, it was present in different forms like ancient structures, stairwells in Rajasthan, and they were like built with a great design. And also like, yeah, after a few years, design thinking would be very advanced.
Adya and all of you, what Adya explained is how she blossomed in that. For roots, you have to go still farther back. Maybe something that you did as a child, something that you did before you understood or heard the word design thinking. We are looking at such things. Okay. Yes, Alankrita. Or Akshata, you go ahead. Akshata, you go ahead.
Okay. So design thinking, I think, originated from the fact that when we're in school in our current education system, we have to take up approximately 6 to 10 subjects. In younger grades, we had more subjects as extracurriculars. So and you have to be proficient in almost all of them. So design thinking is often very useful in simplifying and meeting what the dreamer side of you wants to do and what the doer side of you needs to do. So if I needed to apply what I was doing maybe in a mathematical domain, what I'm doing with my logical mind in an English essay, I was able to do it because of the space given, because of design thinking. Design thinking is basically having a deep understanding of the problem. It teaches you to really understand what you're doing and then solve the problem. It makes you take action. That's what's different from problems, from understanding the problem and design thinking. You take action in a different way. So I think it originated from juggling that many subjects. Okay. And I think today today where we're using design thinking would be in mental manipulation in the markets. In a wider scale, I think design thinking is used to manipulate people's thought processes and ideas.
Okay, good. Thank you, Akshata. We'll go to Treya.
So as a child of around 3 or 4, I've always kind of been told that I was lost or in my head all the time. And I've always wondered why people keep telling me that. And in like the past few years, I've come to the conclusion that since I've had so much time to ponder and reflect, I'm lost in my head thinking about solutions for everything I see around me. So design thinking is something that evolves and grows with who you are. It changes shape, changes form, but it's always there inside everyone. So to me, as I watch people grow, I grow myself and design thinking in myself well. And I'm able to ponder things I've never pondered before. So design thinking is just a platform through which I understand myself and I understand life itself. So.
Okay, Akshit.
Yes, so your question is very introspective. So, I mean, a lot of people are talking about when they were kids, so I'll do that too. I mean, I think one thing that remains with all of us is we always want things to be simple and easy. I wouldn't call it lazy, but we do love it when a solution is very simple and it's very intuitive, like you just understand it, no one has to explain it to you. So I feel that has always been there with me. And I mean, I feel like in a sense, being lazy is beneficial to the design process because it forces you to think of the most easy solution that the most number of people would be able to adapt to. So that is one thing I feel would probably help me later on in developing my design thinking skills. Another thing is when you think of a simple solution, it really forces you to think outside the box because, I mean, anybody can come up with a complicated solution, but like coming up with a super simple solution that no one would have thought of, I mean, that's what I think design thinking is. It's that aha moment.
Okay, aha moment. Okay. Next, let's go to Amrita.
Yes, sir. So I think previously my learning strategy was very much different from now. And I kept reading about how I could change my learning strategy from a more rote learning to more cognitive. And I came across the concept of first principles, where I started thinking about how really learning from the fundamental truths rather than through all the assumptions given really helps me in the way I solve problems. And I think that's one of the basic things that helps me in design thinking. And another aspect is observation. I think the first step to my design thinking process is observing and really understanding the aspects surrounding the problem that could be included in the solution.
Great. Yes, next, Alakrita.
Namaste, sir. So, to me, design thinking, the one which have made the roots of my design thinking, I would like to credit my father for this. because he's the one who has shown me how things work and how you find solutions for the problems. And he has taught me to use the presence of my mind and to, have a logical explanation to things. Second, I would also, like to give credit to my roots, to the things that I've experienced and seeing the experiences around me, about how people have solved different things and how I could apply them in my own life. So gathering information from everywhere and coming up with a final solution, which not only benefits me, but also helps, the job done. So at the end of the day, the thing which has helped me the most is.
What happened?
I think she got disconnected. Can we move to the next one? Adya, would you like to tell?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I have to add more points also, like the roots. So, like I started gear from Montessori, and we used to have many activities, and they were designed for young people. Like example is like arranging the beads from one bowl to another bowl and putting them in a string. And also, I used to like Lego blocks when I was a kid, and I used to build different models of them which were not in the instruction manual, and I used to create a whole lot of different new things. And also, I used to ask questions to my parents and teachers out of curiosity, and they used to answer them. And during also this year's design thinking challenge, I used these thoughts and then I came up with an ideal solution. And also, the subject I used is economics, and it will help each person.
Okay, we'll go to Abhinav.
For me, I think going back to my roots is when I was a kid, obviously. And when I was a kid, my mother always encouraged me to, explore and understand on my own. So I was a very hands-on kid, and my mother would give me various little projects to work on. And as problems came around, I would have a good understanding of what is the problem because of the hands-on experience I try to get from each and every problem. And it's also because my mother supported me and encouraged me to explore each and every problem that I encountered, and taught me there isn't one way to solve it. And understanding all the angles that come with a particular problem that helped me. And I think another thing that defines my design thinking is laziness, because there is a saying, need is the mother of invention, which to an extent is true, but laziness is also a very good driver of innovation. 100 years ago, people were living, now also we're living, but all the different comforts that we have brought is not because of need, it's because we are lazy and are want. So that is also a very good driver of design thinking. And so I feel that is also a good major part of my way of thinking.
Abhijit, I see you advocating laziness. I don't mind, but please be careful about advocating that. It may not be always a very nice thing. Yes, Abhijit.
So I think that children are the most wide-eyed and the most observant people on the planet, and I think I can relate that to myself. As a child, going around just looking at things and wondering why is this the way it is, why is this in this certain way, and that has developed a lot of my thinking. And again, credit to my parents for this. They wouldn't give me an answer straight away. They never, it's not spoon feeding the answer. They always gave me a hint or a pathway to the answer. And that really developed a critical thinking ability in me. And that in the end went on to develop into design thinking. Another aspect, so you brought it up yourself wonderfully, that what we are taught, we may not always pick up, but when we experience it, we pick it up much more. We were taught design thinking, I remember, in 5th grade. And that time it never struck me, it never occurred to me how useful this would be. But later, probably about 2 or 3 years ago, I saw my dad doing woodworking and construction and all those small just home fixes. And that really provoked a thought in me of how you can solve small problems by just thinking about them with a different perspective. You don't always need a complicated solution, as Akshit said. You can always go by a simple approach, and usually that's the approach that will actually work. So yeah.
Thank you, Akshit. Let's listen to Akshara.
Yes, namaste. So basically, when I first heard of design thinking, I was like, "What is design thinking? I don't understand it." And then when I was explained what it was, I realized that I used it so much in my life without actually thinking about it. A lot of the panelists mentioned, design thinking is in every one of us. In school, we engage in a lot of areas where design thinking is used, like extracurricular activities, and we had labs at school, and where technology, lots of different technology was exposed to us, and that allows your mind to wander into design thinking. And as a child, I'd say I was never really organized. Even now, I'm still not organized. I call myself an expert at keeping my room really dirty. So I think that reflects creativity. Why am I not organized? Why do I not stick to a routine? It's because I adjust my routine and find a way of living that solves the problems at hand. So right now, like Akshit and Abhinav mentioned, being lazy is beneficial for creativity. It drives you to get what you want. But yeah, then again, I wouldn't say being lazy is good. It's not. So right now, I'd say I'd look back to a problem. I was too lazy to go downstairs and get a package from the security every time it came. So my mind directly wandered into solving that problem. So I thought about designing a pulley system that would prevent me from climbing up and down the stairs every time. And well, I didn't actually build it because I think I value the fact that we need to work and not become a couch potato. But I thought about the design, and I think that is the beginning of the process. And those kind of small instances where your mind wanders into solving those problems, I think that's where design thinking comes in handy. And even in the future, those are the kind of thoughts that will solve problems in your life.
Thank you. Let's listen to Alankrita. She has to continue.
Yes, sir. Sorry, I'd gotten disconnected. So, design thinking, I've always, tried to, look at the question and answer the question why, and how do I solve the problem. And I've had a few instances in my life. So I think a few years ago, we were supposed to, put this photo frame on the wall, and the hole was too small for the screw to get in. So the thing is that we always, first put the screw on and then we attach the photo frame on to hang, right? So the problem was the small hinge of the photo frame was too small for the screw. So the thing that I suggested was that first you just place the photo frame on the wall and then put the screw on top of it. So you can just insert it straight away. So I had no idea that I had applied design thinking over there. That was just the quick logic of mind and what I could do to make the problem easier. And I think that's how you develop your small characteristics into your mindset on how to solving things. The second one is that I remember we used to actually borrow books from each other, like in my old apartment. We used to live on 2 floors below each other. So the thing is that I made this bag sort of thing where we used to put the books in and used to give each other the books from shifting it like a pulley. And I still remember a few experiences about it, and that was actually pretty great. And last but not the least, I would like to talk about the subject CAP in my school, grade 8. So this year we have been working on machines. And in machines, a few weeks ago, our teacher, Intl, she had asked us to, there's this thing called 10 seconds ball challenge, and we were supposed to balance the ball on out of making a small pathway or a track for the ball to stay over there for 10 seconds. And that was one of the best experiences I've ever done. We were supposed to keep the ball on the pathway by having different obstacles, by creating slopes. And then the things that I faced to reduce or increase the friction, I put rubber bands on the ball, and then I put liquid soap to increase the friction. So this kind of implied or helped form my thinking. At the end of the day, all these small experiences have helped shift my mindset and focus it on the main problems and solutions. And yes, thank you.
Great. Now Abhinav wants to say something. Yes, Abhinav.
So when I say laziness, I don't think so that exactly puts forward what I'm exactly thinking in my head. I think a more appropriate statement would be elimination of unnecessary effort. So looking at stuff from an angle of simplicity, making sure there isn't any extra effort that is going into a particular thing. That's a better way of describing what I'm trying to say. Looking around you, you see a lot of stuff that are unnecessarily complex, that they don't need to be, and trying to understand why it is so complex and why can't it be.
Don't worry. I didn't take it negative. It is just a part of a joke. Now, I'm very impressed with all your eloquence. You're able to express what you have in your mind. In fact, I asked this question with an intent to tell you how it starts. I'm sure you all understand the word wonder. If I ask you when you wondered about something first in your life, you wouldn't be able to tell me. Your design thinking starts from there. Maybe you wondered at a building which is so high, or you wondered at somebody who is so stylish. You wondered at something. It starts from there. Next is, you're amazed how it happened, how he managed, how he or she achieved. So all these kind of emotions in you lead to you being a very, very fertile brain and come out with solutions which are very creative. That's what we call design thinking. Some of the words I picked up from your discussions are, sometimes you're puzzled. You end up thinking and solving. You have words like curiosity, exploration, observation, and experiences. All these things lead to design thinking. And you won't know where you started, but my advice would be to create more opportunities for this. You become a good design thinker when you become intuitive in this aspect. If you're only calculating using logic, you may not go beyond a limit. But when it becomes intuitive, there is no limit. To be more intuitive, you need to apply yourself more, you need to work on it more. It takes a lot of time and effort. That's what you can consciously do. Okay, wonderful answers. I'm thankful. Okay, over to Preeti ma'am.
So we still need to listen from Naina. Naina is missed out.
Oh, we missed one child. Yeah, after that we'll listen to Pranav. Where is Naina?
I cannot find her on the call. I think she has left the call.
Okay.
When she
Then we'll
returns.
listen to Pranav. Yes, Pranav.
Okay, so as the last contestant said, they were talking about the balance the ball project. That is, I think, 10 seconds that you have to balance the ball. I think that reminded me of an experience with regards to this on my own, and like around the same time during when we were doing a CAP project. It's called a Rube Goldberg machine. So basically, it's like a set of contraptions that you move, like you basically move a ball from one point to another, or any sort of thing that's the focus of the film or whatever you're trying to capture, and it goes through an elaborate series of settings as well. So to me, that resonated a lot, because it's like a paradox, right? Because there's so much complexity going on, and yet the most beautiful Rube Goldberg machines are the ones that look simple, that have simplicity in them. It actually came up last year as well. So there's this online, there's this 3D software called Blender, right? And there was this one challenge in which artists were asked to design their own Rube Goldberg machines, but it wasn't offline. I mean, it wasn't mechanical. They had to do it in Blender. So that they came up with some truly beautiful creations. So that's what resonated with me the most: the fusion of simplicity and depth.
Thank you. Yeah, Sunny, you wanted to share something with all of us?
Yes, namaste everyone.
I think Sir Naina has come back.
Okay, we'll go there after Sunny.
No, let her finish. It's previous questions. Let her answer.
Okay.
Naina?
Naina?
Yes, please.
So in terms of roots of design thinking, which is where I lost, and I hope the discussion is still there. I was thinking about how asking questions that are kind of nonsensical is important in actually understanding the problems that we face in our day-to-day lives. So, one example of this that I just thought of is I remember watching Tare Zameen Par, the Hindi movie, as a kid, and the song Bum Bum Bole has so many questions that sound kind of stupid, but in like experience of design thinking, I feel like asking and getting the answer to questions that might seem nonsensical or stupid could actually bring us to a lot of new ideas. And since coming up to the actual like finding what the problem is that needs to be solved, even that is a important step in design thinking. So I feel like asking questions, even if they might sound stupid, is really important.
Good. Thank you, Naina. Yes, Sunny, go ahead.
Yes. So, first of all, namaste everyone. A lot of you have spoken about laziness and also with respect to trying to justify it, saying it is, which is a really important point. But I would like to just change that perspective and make it, have all of you think of it in a different way, which is basically the best product is no product, or the best process is no process. So use your innate desire to make life simple to develop processes that don't really need to be there. So eliminating things that are not needed. So no product is the best product, no process is the best process. With respect to my question, I think I have two. One is fairly simple, and one is a bit requires a bit more of thought. So first is with respect to I think what Amrita shared about the example about deflating the tires. So I have just one thought of I feel we're getting into a space where a lot of us use a lot of jargon to explain simple things, and I would, let's say, a simple thing like deflating tires, I would personally classify it as using common sense. But how in this day and age where everyone is trying to, let's say, up oneself over the other, or try and sound a lot more learned or better than someone else by pulling in big terms and using it. So we also get caught in the same thing. So how would you, let's say, be able to break away from this whole aspect of classifying design thinking into something where it really has a lot many processes, and with respect to using common sense? So that is one. And the more important question would be, in an ideal scenario, all of us have had our projects, and in school you get this thing of, you're in an ideal situation where there's no limit in terms of time to solve a problem or to find a solution. In school, yes, you do have your deadline in terms of submission and stuff, but when you get into the real world and you're trying to solve real world problems, there'll always be a sort of a time-bound expectation to come up with a solution. Like everyone's talked about global warming. They've been talking about global warming and CO2 emissions for decades. But there has to be, let's say, a definite time by which a solution should come up so it can be implemented. So how would you, and when you stick to something that is time-bound, there's going to be compromise. So when you are in such a situation of needing to compromise either on testing out certain ideas that you got, or compromise on terms of, I won't go down that path, this solution seems fine for this moment, I want to understand from each of you as to, based on what would you decide that, yes, I've got the best solution, and how would you, let's say, rank or decide what you're going to compromise on? So it's not like you're compromising on the solution, but you're compromising on future, let's say, future epitome of, the solution might be better, but for right now, this is what I have, I'm going to stick with it. So how will you reach that point? I hope I've been able to explain myself. If there's doubts, please just share. so I can better articulate the question.
Yeah, Pranav, what do you want to share? Go ahead.
No, I think I just remembered. I think Sarvesh sir had asked quite a similar question last year. To some extent, I think it wasn't related to time per se, but I think it was in general, like constraints. If you have constraints, how do you work within them, and at what point do you declare that what is your thought process behind the product itself? Like at what point do you declare that you're satisfied? I think those were along the lines, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
I don't remember last year's question. Thank you, Pranav.
In this regard, shall I ask Naina, since you are in 12th, unfortunately, would you like to share your viewpoints?
I'd like a moment to think about it now.
Okay, would someone else like to go?
Yeah, if you all listened to the question last year, you got 1 year time to think.
Lakshana has something to share. Lakshana, would you like to please share your viewpoint?
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to mention that, yeah, actually, I had an experience, like I experienced something like this where I had to go about like constraints to like check which constraints are more important than the other ones. So basically, my college counseling is going on right now. So I've had to choose between two colleges. So there, I've had to put a pro-con list on which is better, like which constraint is more important, like either living in the city or the college gaining more reputation in 5 years, something like that. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. Yeah, like this kind of situations, like they do happen quite often, and I've been tending more on the side of making pro-con list and lists and calling people to figure out what will suit me best at that moment.
Yeah, I just wanted to put a bit of perspective there. This is Dr. Mayank here. I think as rightly put, there is a very thin line between common sense and design thinking. And that's something which comes out. Sometimes it comes very intrinsically in people. Sometimes they have to go through a different set of cycles before arriving to a decision, as Lakshana is just mentioning about putting pros and cons in front of you. Some people just follow the trends as is, and they think that that's the normal, and we should also follow that. Some people take a very different tangential path and make sure that they set aside a certain set of goals and they achieve that by going in that direction. They might face a lot of criticism, they might face a lot of challenges in those paths, but then they think that this is the most achievable, or this is something which they want to do as a part of their lives. So putting all the pros and cons, or putting all the options in front of you and taking a decision, sometimes it comes out very, very commonsensical. Sometimes it comes out very, very difficult to make a decision on. So with those perspectives, I think the question could be answered and thoughts could be put forward. Just helping you guys out.
Thank you so much, sir. Abhijit, please share your views.
Yes, ma'am. So, sir, thank you for your question. So, coming to your first question about about common sense and how the tire example that you gave. So, I feel common sense as a topic itself is very subjective. It's different for different people depending on a particular person's life experience, a particular person's scenario. What is common sense for you might not be common sense for me, and vice versa. So, I think giving that perspective to the example that Amrita gave about the tire, maybe the young boy would have had a certain set of scenarios in which he would have had to use the deflating the tires situation. So I don't think particularly that one would be common sense. But yes, classifying design thinking and having it bordered with common sense does make a lot of, does sometimes come up, because sometimes we think, okay, this is a very simple thing that we could have just thought of. We don't need to apply the whole process. But in other situations, we do need to apply the whole process of using empathy and prototypes and testing the models and all to come up with a solution. The second question that you asked about time and time-bound problems. So something that came to my mind was Apollo 13. Obviously, there's a wonderful movie being made about it as well. In that movie, in case someone hasn't watched it, I'll just give you a very brief breakdown of it. What happens is 3 astronauts on Apollo 13 were going to the moon. Midway to the moon, their oxygen cylinders actually burst, and there's no way to filter the CO2 from the cabin. So at that point in time, it was the engineers in Houston and NASA who came up with a solution to solve the problem. And they didn't have, of course, they were time bound because lives were on the line. There was a limited oxygen supply. And they didn't really have a way to test it. So at this point, they had to just use their intelligence, along with definitely a little bit of faith that the problem would work. And I think Akshana also put a brilliant point forward, that you have to look at the most important problem. Sometimes you'll come across 3 or 4 problems. For me, I feel the best way to evaluate is, what is the worst case scenario if I don't solve this problem? If I have 3 problems and I look at maybe one problem, am I going to die if I don't solve this problem? Am I going to lose my job? Am I going to not be able to go to school? Or some problem like that. So when you look at the worst case scenario, that means you can prioritize problems that are more important to be solved. And another point the last point probably I'd like to bring a point is retrospect is a very dangerous thing. When we look back at problems that we faced, we always feel that, okay, we could have solved this in a completely different way, because at this point, when we look back at stuff, we're usually free of emotions and the stress of the time pressure that we are facing. So I feel that when we retrospect and when we look back at a problem, we always are able to find different solutions. But I feel we shouldn't dwell on these and just accept that was the scenario we were in, and then just move on.
Thank you, Abhishek. Just one clarification, Abhijit. It's just not how you prioritize which problem you will solve. Like taking your Apollo 13 example itself. Let's say the scientists at Houston came up with a solution that maybe was 80% effective, but there was a probability for them to develop the system further to reach 95% effectiveness. But in that case, they would have sacrificed that extra 15% efficiency because they had lives on the line. So I'm more interested to understand the thinking behind how would you prioritize, which aspects would you compromise on to find a solution, not which solution will you want to find a problem to. But yeah, I understand your perspective in terms of prioritizing and giving the most critical component the highest weightage. Thank you.
Amrita, you may go.
Yes, ma'am. So I think for Sir's first question, I think design thinking nowadays is becoming more omnipresent, and people are truly understanding the basics of it. I feel like some people have a misconception that it's a concept you have to learn and thoroughly understand to apply, but it's really not, where you can just apply your common sense and figure out solution. So I think that's been evolving for a long time, and it's changing. And for the second question, I'd like to start with a quote by Tim Brown, that designers learn to excel in constraints, but design thinkers have learned to navigate between them. I think a very important aspect is to set your priorities while solving the solution. And I think the least could be the style, which could change over time and could evolve, but we should focus more on solving the problem as a whole. For example, even in the truck example that I've given, there were so many constraints that the truck could not be torn down, or the cargo could not be taken by another truck because it was in a remote location. So all these constraints have to be included too. And another recent example that I heard about is Swiggy's time-bound design thinking experience, where there were excess orders and there were much less delivery men. So what they did was to make one delivery person get orders for 2-3 people in the same location, which I think was a very time-bound and needed solution for people to receive their orders in the correct time and for them to solve the problem without having to spend more money or any other resources.
Thank you, Amrita. And sorry, I didn't want to pick out that example, but it just has happened. So no hard feelings and no personal thought that way. But yeah, I understand your point, and thank you.
Abhinav.
So when we look at the news recently, I feel the inventors of today have fallen into this trend of trying to build something overly futuristic and stuff. So I've recently heard about Elon Musk's idea to build underground tunnels and transport cars on pods, automated pods that move around. And the first thing that came to my mind when I heard that is, well, that just sounds like a subway train with excessive steps. In an effort to look futuristic and trying to put too much inventive spirit in designing our new products, I think we have lost what we're essentially trying to do is trying to improve. And it's clearly observed in today's trends. And I feel this is where the important part of prioritization comes in. Prioritize our resources and time into problems that actually need solving rather than just doing it for the sake of doing it. And when it comes to trying to solve a problem in a time-bound thing, I think it is important to never give out on the testing phase, because a half-developed product can be way more dangerous, can be very dangerous. And I think sometimes it is worth it to put in that little effort to properly test out. And an example that comes to my mind is, I think in the 1930s, most of the refrigerators and refrigerants used ammonia and sulfur dioxide, which were very harmful chemicals. So inventors, what they did was, come up with an alternative chemical that are chlorofluorocarbons. And they immediately, they said, oh, this is a great idea. We will immediately apply this. And everywhere, ammonia and sulfur dioxide were replaced with this chlorofluorocarbons. And today we are very well aware of the impact chlorofluorocarbons has had on our atmosphere and environment. So putting in half effort rarely is a good thing. And I feel it is worth it to go that extra step to carefully analyze the situation and pump out a proper solution, because it can do more harm than it's actually helping.
Thank you, Abhinav. I would recommend that you study a bit more about what the boring company is doing to really understand what it is. And secondly, with respect to CFCs, it's again coming back to my question. At that point in time, they were trying to solve something which was much more worse than CFCs, and they thought that they found the solution with CFCs. And they chose to stop there because they had to get the industrial process of manufacturing into line. So they had a time-bound requirement to find a solution at that point of time. Which comes back to the question of, yes, if we have an infinite amount of time, we can always improve upon the ideas we come up. But how do we decide, okay, yes, for now, this is what my best solution is. I'll run with it, and then I'll come back and see if I can better it. So yeah, the CFC is a perfect example of, yes, at that point in time, they found it, but it was not a lasting solution, and it had to be replaced again.
Akshata, you may go next.
Right. So to your first question, I think the simplest way to eliminate jargon and differentiate would be to have a set of logical rules, like the law. But obviously, we can't create a law for psychology and similar subjects. And like Srinivasa sir said, you can't have only a logical approach because that often doesn't lead to development. You need dreaming and you need ideation. So I feel like intuition should primarily be used during ideation, and when we're implementing the idea, when we're trying to propagate the idea, we use more logical thinking. That's basically differentiating between how you approach the problem in the ideation and implementation stages. That's how you avoid jargon and excessive simplification. Then in the second question, I wanted to take an example of infrastructure development in our country. So when we consider a third world country, for most of the time they say we have poorer infrastructure and lesser funds. So the primary leading cause for the failure of infrastructure development projects is the lack of funding. And that's primarily because of poor distribution of funds and lack of public support. There's the 25% of officials, like leaders on this subject, say that infrastructure is poor because there is a lack of public support to the infrastructure projects themselves, beside lack of funding. And funding is also short due to time management issues. When projects are delayed, they lose the most money. So I would say, despite having time constraints, at all costs, finish the project on time, because there's always a certain amount, there's unlimited testing you can do. So we draw the line between unlimited testing and losing time by trying to finish it in the planned version. Like planning, you keep revising your plan. You have to build in flexibility into the plan, agreed. But what you have in your plan is what you have to finish in the time constraint. When the system is, when it's dynamic and your plan changes suddenly, you look at what costs you the least, what costs the public the least. And it's always, it's unpredictable. So how do we build in flexibility? My first example would be construction of flyovers. To handle Bangalore's traffic, they constructed flyovers over 5 to 10 years ago. Today, it's not handling it well enough. So and they decided a metro and a public transportation system would be the better solution. At that point, if they'd implemented something similar to design thinking and had created flyovers which could easily be adapted to metro structures by using pre-made blocks like they do in Singapore for construction, our construction would be faster and they could adapt existing construction structures into a metro. So this is how we could include flexibility in design. So our flyovers could become metros and we would save a lot of time, money, and investment. So I think this is how we slowly inculcate design thinking into the main process in our government and our budget and planning systems. So that's how we handle time constraints, flexibility.
Thank you, Akshata, for a very on the dot answer in terms of flexibility. Thank you.
Akshara, you may go next.
Yes. So the first question that Sarvesh asked is the one about flattening the tires. So we are blinded by competition sometimes, and I think that limits us. And so I think common sense is becoming less and less common. This is because of how complex we think when we're presented with a problem. Like Abhinav explained, we are losing ourselves somewhere along the way, and we're overcomplicating things. This is why children are usually more creative. They have more common sense than a lot of adults. So over time, we focus so much about making the solution more unique and more complex that we forget the most basic solutions that we can use. And about the second question, in real life, there are a lot of problems where time constraint is common, and I think within that time, we should make the most of it. And the problems that are solved, they have a hierarchy of needs. So first is solving the problem at hand. Then comes the sustainability aspect of it, then the time constraint. Yes, time is a limiting factor, but sustainability is also really important. So I think, like Akshata said, flexibility helps you with that. So you can solve the problem at hand, and you know that in the future, if there's a problem that will arise, you can solve that problem too. So I think with flexibility, you can easily do that. Like Sarvesh said with the Apollo 13 mission, the consequences of a time constraint are higher. So that's why this pushes you to work harder with the given time. So even though there was, let's say, an 80% efficiency, you had to take your chances with that because you could not let the astronauts die. So a time constraint pushes you to do more efficient work. Recently with Talent Day and everything, time constraint was the driving factor for us. But what was different about Talent Day was that there was no consequence of the future. There was no sustainability involved. So I think in a lot of real life problems, sustainability is extremely important, and so is flexibility. So I think we shouldn't let a time constraint limit us from implementing a sustainable solution.
Thank you.
Treya Anand.
With regards to your first question, sir, I feel that design thinking is something that is more abstract and can evolve into common sense in a momentary period of time. And for the second question, it's a bit more complicated. So I realized that we as humans have poor memory. And because of this, a lot of times we're not able to come up with effective solutions for things that have happened in the past to sustain the peace we have now. For example, the World War. The impact of the World War II, which happened some time ago, we don't feel it because we weren't there. And the memories that have been passed on through the generations, the effect of what the monstrosity of what happened and all of that is muted. So the effort we put into sustaining this peace is a lot less than what we should be doing. Time constraints, that depends on the problem. For larger problems like global warming, we have time before like what happens and it affects us. And it's on a larger scale, so we don't really think that far into the future. That's another problem we have. It's a slightly pessimistic approach to what I'm saying. But we can be very fickle at times, and we often only care about what is happening in this span, in this generation, in this period, this short period of time, and what is going to affect us, instead of thinking about future and the greater purpose of it all. For problems that are more within our grasp and something that might directly impact just the whole future of everything and us, we are generally a lot more wary, and we panic a lot more easily for those kinds of things, and solutions are a lot faster. We take action faster for things that directly impact us. So what I think I'm trying to say is that we are driven by the motivation to help our current period of time and maybe not the future. And satisfaction might be difficult, but I feel that we would go with what is good enough to sustain what might help us. So again, it's a kind of pessimistic approach to it, but it's what I find is the truth.
Thank you, Shreya. And one aspect I would like you to spend some time on in the next couple of years, maybe, is just to go into reading about the world wars. It has been really tragic in terms of how, as humanity, we have gone through that. But also look at it from a perspective of how we have advanced also as a civilization in terms of technology and science. Because during wars is when governments spend a lot more on science and development, which spurs a lot of inventions and discoveries. So it's not completely, let's say a really negative aspect, but we need to find a way to use that motivation to better ourselves than the enemy. Not during war, but during peacetime as well. So that would need some kind of thought process. So you're a bit young, so just see depending on your interests, read up bit more on that, and see how can we take that situation and those scenarios and put into peacetime to ensure that we continue developing, evolving. Like example, even the moon mission. I don't think the state should have been so pressured into going to the moon first if it wasn't for the Russians being able to go into space before them. So it's all this, there's a lot that's happening around. So it's not very simple that can meet the eye. There's a lot of layers that go amongst things that happen across the world. So keep an open mind and absorb all these information. This is also where design thinking is involved. We need to not only empathize with the users, but also look at the context, look at the situation, and take in these factors to come up with a solution. So Yeah, thank you.
Adya, you may go next.
Yes, ma'am. So the answer to the first question is that in design thinking challenge, we should think outside the box and to find solution that would help the community. And also you should immerse yourself in the problem and only then you can come up with different ideas. And as Sir said, common sense plays a big role in design thinking. We need to understand the surrounding situation and cater it all parts of the society. It can be very simple. Like for example, in design thinking round 2, I designed a food packaging label that had diseases caused by food, example heart issues, diabetes, etc. It is such a common sense to add it instead of adding complex chemical name on label that people don't even understand. And the second question, my answer to that is that I agree that no product is the best. It evolves over time. Nothing is perfect. It's an iterative process. That means like you come up with one solution today, but the next day you feel that you can improve it. You should be open to ideas and feedback from people. Like one example is that when Steve Jobs designed the iPhones, like he wouldn't have stopped there. In last 15 years, like there are so many revisions and new models. Every product has a new feature, and every year, like we are excited to we are excited about the iPhone model launch and what new features it will have, like how will it be helpful. We are still wondering that. And when we get the problem, I will try to understand every aspect of it. Like we should ask questions to yourself, like why, how, what, and when. We should do a survey and we should get a feedback. Then we should prioritize the different features in terms of urgency, and I'll implement those first. Also see what resources like are available at the time to create it. We should be open to learning, flexible, and keep asking questions to ourselves and keep evolving. Also, adapt to new technology. That is the key growth to development. And finding an ideal solution doesn't mean that you can delay and procrastinate. We should be ready with a solution before the problem becomes worse.
Sir, you are on mute.
Thank you, Adya. Yes, as a consumer, it is common sense that you need to put the diseases that will affect you when you consume a certain product. But when you're talking about something like that, there's a lot many players at play. So need to find a fine balance between satisfying everyone's needs. Because there's the aspect of win-win as well. Because you'll have the industry, you'll have the manufacturers, you'll have the lobbyists, you'll have everybody involved. So yes, as an end consumer, you would want it to be as simple as possible, where I might not even buy it by looking at it. But there are a lot of other aspects, which is why the process of design thinking helps, because you consider everyone's point of view and then take it into consideration. So thank you.
Krita, you are next.
Yes, ma'am. So regarding your first question, sir, the thing with common sense, it's more like a snap of a second and you find an answer. It's more like, working under extreme frustration and pressure and coming up with the solution which solves the problem. While design thinking is a concept where, you use different perspectives, different experiences, and different concepts of life, like humanity, like it's been talked about for a long time. And I believe that common sense is like a step in design thinking and helps, make the product or the solution better. And when we look at the second question, which you were talking about the efficiency of time, when there's less time, the most important question we end up asking is what is important right now? What should be done right now that helps to solve the problem for the time being? And during this time, the pressure is intense, the stress is intense. And during that time, our brain needs to function really, really fast and shouldn't get under the burden or the pressure. And when such things happen, not everyone can cope with it. And as you were talking about the Apollo mission, right? The pressure was very, very high, and we couldn't strive for the extra 15% because of the time limit. And we had to put ourselves in the shoes. We had elements of desperation. We had to imply logic and intelligence, and have faith in your product, faith and trust. And while we look at, if you have if you have a large amount of time, you will always come up with new ideas, new, you could say, suggestions
to your inventions and help develop it into a better product. And honestly, no design is, the best. No design is perfect. You will have to change it every time to suit the needs of the public, to suit the developing interests of people. And whenever we, make new, you could say, developments in something, it helps in, shaping the mind into a different process or perspective of thinking. So the thing is that at the end of the day, whenever you have less time, the thing that you should, aim for is how to, solve the problem for that time being, and not aim for the perfection at that time. Because at that time, the most, you could say, the thing on top of your head is the extreme stress. And you need to par that and come up with the problem for that particular solution at the time being. Over the time period, as time passes, you could work on that solution more and develop it into a better idea. So yes, thank you.
Thank you, Alankrita. And I just want to make a clarification that the example quoted was from Abhijit, and I just hypothetically came up with numbers about the efficiency, so don't quote me on that anywhere else. Thank you.
Thank you for the point, Abhijit.
Akshit, you can go next.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So regarding the first question of common sense versus jargon, I just wanted to mention that it's jargon when you're trying to fill in words and you're trying to act smarter than you are, and it's technical terms when you're actually trying to explain something. So there's a differentiation between the two. And to eliminate the jargon, I think what Chairman Sir had initially asked us about the roots, I think that's very important, because if your source comes from a very organic area, you won't have to use jargon to like fill in the words and act smarter than you are. You will have a solution. The second thing I wanted to talk about was your second question, sir. There is no way we can ever make the perfect solution or the perfect process, like one of the previous panelists also mentioned. It's always within your certain time frame. So for example, some people mentioned the CFC problem, and a very similar thing happening now is the lithium ion battery. So we all know that the excavation of lithium causes a lot of environmental degradation, but I mean, we need it for the battery. So in the future, that's going to become a problem. So I feel like humans, historically, we have always been thinking about our own time frame, and we don't look really for like into the future. And another thing is, I feel like time and quality are inversely proportional. So in the hypothetical example you gave about the Apollo 13 mission, like you would have to weigh out, if I spend an extra 1 hour or 2 hours on the problem, the benefit in quality that I get, is it really worth the time? So that constantly happens, and I'm very sure Dr. Mayank in his field is very aware of this problem, because you can never, the more time you put in, obviously you'll get a better quality product, but then you're sacrificing on time. So I think the best area that I can use as an example is the whole space exploration and innovation area, because NASA recently just launched the James Webb Telescope. Now you could also say that why aren't they using current day technology in that telescope? Why aren't they using the more sophisticated cameras? Because they've been working on it for a very long time, and for the time that they've spent in, the quality that they've got, they've decided it's the perfect balance. So Adi had mentioned earlier about the new products coming out each year. That's what it is. It's always innovation. So if today you work on a car, you can't make the best car today. If you asked Edison to make an LED light bulb back when he was making the light bulb, that wouldn't work out. So it's always incremental innovation, because in the end, we're all bound by our own mortality. So you can do the best in this time frame, and then the next generation works upon it and innovates. So I think that was my answer to your question, sir. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Akshit.
Alankrita has raised her hand. Alankrita.
Yes, ma'am. So I would like to point out that every decision that you make has pros and cons. There are good, ideas implemented in that decision, but they also have adverse effects on the things that have, been looked down upon for some time. So, like as we talked about the world wars, right? It had the con of, all the peace getting disrupted, all the wars, all the innocent lives lost. But if you look at the cons, like you said, the technology developed into such at a high position, the army, the new artillery, the arms, the government policies about the relationship between countries, how to get a stronger economy, or how to, help in the nationalism of a country. And there's also an example of the Enigma code getting busted, which was a pro in the World War. So the thing that I'd like to point out is that whatever decision you ever make will always have a set of pros and cons. And the thing that you need to concentrate is that the thing you should help solving the thing that is the most important for that time period. And for that, you will always have cons, but those need to be ignored for some time in order to achieve your answer.
Thank you, Lankita. I think we have only one last part.
Judges, I have to inform you that Nayana Rajesh, she has left the call because she's not feeling well.
Okay.
He might not join us back. Akshit has raised your hand. Akshit, you may.
Oh yeah, sorry, ma'am. Just one more point to add to Sarvesh's second question. So I think a very apt and valid example would be the vaccine today. You could argue that why didn't they spend more time on the vaccine? Like if they would have spent maybe 2-3 years, they would have got the efficacy rate higher. And even I got the vaccine, but I still got COVID. So I mean, you can argue that's not completely like 100% effective, but that is obvious because they spent only 1 year on it compared to the polio vaccine, which was in development for a number of years. Now it's one of the most effective vaccines we have. So I feel like that is very valid to answer the question of how do you decide the constraints and how do you weigh out the options? Because at that point, beating or giving a little bit of efficacy against coronavirus was the number one priority. So they did, sorry, for lack of a better word, they didn't perform as well in the quality aspect of the COVID vaccine, but they got it out within a year. So I think that was a very valid example. Thank you.
I think I'm running out of time, Amrita, over here. So I will take your question later. So right now, over to you, Aarti ma'am.
I know it's kind of getting time. We are time bound coming to closure. I just want to talk about one perspective. We talked about the constraints involved, the process, routes, and all that, right? I want to talk about one. I want to start giving an example first. When design thinking is applied in GE, okay, any of the industries you talk about, Apple or Airbnb and all that, it's all commercial ideas, right? I want to talk about something with respect to when GE, when they have this design thinking process kind of in place, they try to create primarily with respect to biomedical instrumentation that they are working on. He talks about Doug Dietz. That's a person who was actually, who's the core person who is involved in all these design. He says design for meaning. In the sense, he worked on projects which essentially would work with replacing incubators, finding what were the problems with respect to neo incubators, like how even probably not even a 9-month-old baby which is fully grown yet, it has the problem with respect to how much infections it's prone to, how much even a small touch, how much is a percentage of the complications it causes for the baby was so high, and they had lost lives. They have seen children, parents suffering, lives lost because of few challenges. Because of that, they had to transfer the child from one place to another for some radiology procedure and all these things. So he says probably when you design something for meaning, it actually makes a lot of sense because you are actually contributing more. Okay, so I'm not talking about a design for a commercial one, like how you have an Apple iPhone feature or Airbnb photos upgraded. I would like to think all of you to think on one small example that has touched your lives probably in the last few years, where you think you wanted to solve something, probably you already started solving, started thinking, or probably you think you want to do when you get there, anything. I want one example where if it is something that where you are going to design for meaning, what it would be for you. And I want this quick. I don't want it too detailed as well. We are running short of time. So keep that in mind. So design for meaning, what it is for you. Could be future, but you had thought of something that really had affected you and you wanted to solve, create some meaning for it, value for it. What is it for you?
I think I will go with okay, we already have one hand. Amirtha, yes.
And I think in the recent times, especially during the COVID pandemic, I felt that texting was one of the main ways which we could keep in touch with our friends and our family. And I felt a lot of experience wherein I felt like texting was very tone deaf, and there could be a lot of misconceptions happening between people who are talking. So I feel like that's one problem that I really wanted to solve, but I kept thinking about it but couldn't come up with a solution. But I would keep it in my mind in the future as well.
Thank you, Amirtha.
Akshara?
Yes, ma'am. So actually the question, I thought about it, and the problem that I've chosen is actually that in shooting, it's a sport, I engage in it. So we use these lead pellets to shoot. Now these pellets are single-use pellets. And every day there are so many pellets being made, imported, transported, and used, and then they all go to waste. Like, for example, if you play a match, you use 60 pellets, and then that's it. Those 60 pellets are gone. You can't use them again. And there is so much that goes into making them, and they get just squished within a fraction of a second, and that's it. That's their life. So there is so much of carbon emission that goes into transporting it all the way from Germany to India. So this is a huge problem. So the solution for this, I've been thinking about would be recycling those pellets, remelting them, remaking them, and probably selling them for a more affordable price, because they are like second hand. You could say they're almost like reuse, like recycled paper, something that's better for the environment with a little lower quality. But I mean, that's a compromise we're willing to make to for the betterment of, let's say, the world, the future. So yeah.
Thank you, Akshata.
Akshit?
Yes, Aarti ma'am, regarding your question, I feel like, ma'am, any kind of design you do make for the betterment of humankind in general would be that, I mean, empathy plays a very big role in that. You have to understand the problem. I wouldn't take up a problem or a future problem. I just want to mention that there already is a solution. I'll give you an example where, ma'am, we know that so many people die of malaria and dengue every year. And I feel like a really good solution to that was the mosquito net that was made. But the problem is, initially you had just a net, you had to tie it up. Then they came up with an innovation where it was the foldable net with the elastic bands in it, which would stretch out. So I feel like it's a simple innovation, a design, someone designed this obviously, and it does save lives because, I mean, if it was given to a lot of people, if it was accessible, then, I mean, they could sleep at night peacefully as well. And I think the numbers would show that if everybody got a mosquito net, the deaths by malaria would reduce. But yeah, I think that's a good example for your question.
Yeah, Akshit. I mean, I'm primarily not just the incubator perspective or a saving life perspective. The idea is, if it is something designing for a meaning, what is that meaning to matters to you? It need not be again to saving lives as such. Just to want to clarify my point here, okay? It doesn't have to be a similar example. It could be anything like what Akshara talked about. It could be recycling with that. That's what makes more meaning for her, because she's seeing that day to day and she wants to do something about it. So with anything that in your relation to that. So not really like heroic saving lives, empathetic, creating that perspective, not just that, okay? Just what makes meaning for design meaning for you. Okay.
Shri Abhinav, you may go next.
So this is where the empathy part of design thinking plays into role. You know, something that you personally haven't experienced yet, but still trying to connect to that and then working a solution for that. It's a really good, characteristic to inculcate in yourself. So the first thought that comes to my mind is when the pandemic hit and everything was shut down and everyone had to go to online learning. Many people who didn't have access to laptops or internet, that learning completely stopped. the schools were closed, and that was it for them. They weren't able to learn from there on, and that is something I personally haven't experienced. Right? I'm able to sit at home, attend online classes, and still continue my learning. But there are many people out there that weren't able to do that, and this was a problem that really kept nagging at the back of my head. And regarding this, I had actually also participated in, I think, the Inventures Changemaker project, and me and my group had put forward ideas for making remote learning accessible to everyone. So I think that is something that I had felt that I needed to do during this pandemic time.
Nice, Sri.
Treya Anand, you may go next.
Yeah, so I realized in like the past, like in all of these answers people have given, is that we focused on the physical aspect of problems and what could be mental, like just something that runs in your head. So I know that myself for sure, we've all gone through a lot, like a really tough period in the pandemic where our mental health is kind of worn on and we grow kind of lonely. And in those kinds of times, I've always kind of wanted more friends to socialize with and connect with, even if it's online. And I know I have friends now, but it's always nice to meet new people because I'm like a very huge extrovert. And so I thought that if we could like create an online platform or any platform where people could connect and understand each other without judgment or any reservations, it would help significantly, and people would stop feeling that, that loneliness that triggers all of that mental health deficiency and the sadness we feel when we connect with people. That automatically it's something that blossoms within us, and there's a lot more hope. So it's just a short answer, but just something that kind of hit me the hardest.
Thank you, Shreya.
Akshata? Okay, sir.
Okay, so I think design with meaning. So I was really hit when I was actually trying to study for an exam. There was a lot of social sciences, and I had to learn about the statistics in Karnataka about how many women are faced with things like kidnapping or lack of education. And it's still extremely high. All of these statistics are extremely high. So the primary way we fix this is infrastructure development, and we're already working towards that. Infrastructure development is covered everywhere, but I want to see how we can improve the baseline. Most of us work out of fear. We are working out of fear. So I want to see how we can motivate people themselves to build their lives better. So that means I want to use design thinking to manipulate people's mindsets to make them feel better about themselves, and also in turn be more productive. If we have a more productive system from the baseline, if we can motivate people who are below the poverty line to work for themselves, then the problem almost solves itself. We could address sustainability because people are willing to address their problems. So I think that's what I'd like to use design thinking, mental health and improvement.
Thank you, Akshita.
Abhijit Dixit, you may go next.
Yes, ma'am. I think mental health has been a topic that a few of our panelists have covered. And I'm someone who really wants to, in the future, get into entrepreneurship, into the business side of companies. And I read a report recently called The Fjord Trends. It's by Accenture. It's published every year. A statement that really stood out to me was care and compassion along with empathy are deep rooted in human nature. And especially through this pandemic, what we've seen is that care and compassion and empathy obviously have been very influential in how people make decisions. These Fjord trends are mainly focused about, are more people centric about how people behave and psychological aspects. And something that really stood out to me was how companies have started accepting that employees need side hustles, and things like the Great Resignation are happening. I think I don't exactly have a solution to this problem of people facing different mental problems throughout the pandemic and other and future problems. But I would say that it is important that companies and even to an extent schools accept that people are facing a difficulty while sitting online the whole day and being in a company, and they'd actually like to expand themselves and move towards a different type of future where it's more self-care, and there is a lot of self-growth, which might be more important to some individuals than others.
Thanks, Abhijit.
Adya, you go next.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, so I think that any idea for design for meaning has to be driven with empathy. Like in COVID pandemic, we people in cities, we learn online, and as we have fast internet, laptops are easily available. So I was worried how kids in remote areas learn, like who don't have internet and computers. So I can design some easy way for them to learn. Example, broadcast lecture videos on TV over existing cable network, and teachers from cities and higher grade students like me can also create videos to help children from rural areas. And I'm also ready to volunteer for this effort and also ask my friends and teachers to help me.
Thank you, Adya.
Thank you.
Alankrita, you need to go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So over the past, few years after the pandemic, we all have been, more aware of the mental health of everybody around us. Mental health has become a really widely discussed topic in these few years. And as we do realize that the pandemic has affected all sections of the society. And as I've said earlier, all the decisions, all the new things, the structures that come up, they all have pros and cons. And the thing is that we could assemble our lives as a stack of cards. All these stacks of cards are different opportunities, are different workings about how we shaped our life. This pandemic was like a gust of wind which blew the stack of cards and disassembled it. The thing that we need to work on is to, start find happiness in everything, to find our little joys in everyday life, to build up new hobbies, to learn how to get stronger and have a great mindset that the future is going to be great, and you need to start having a positive approach and start assembling your stack of cards once more. A few problems which I could talk about is that because the Delta variant has caused a lot of death. It had caused a lot of patients to lose their lives. I have had a personal story with it. I've lost somebody because of the Delta variant. So the situation of the families when they lose somebody, the situation is intense. There's a state of confusion. You do not know what's going to happen. It's like your world has stopped. So over there, the thing is that we should learn how to cherish moments, share experiences to help each other move forward. That's the thing which I'd like to focus on. Work together and build a better future. And another thing is that because of the pandemic, many people who had been working earlier for a specific point, like I have a friend who is really good at swimming, so she used to get up every morning and go to the swimming pool. Because of the pandemic, right, it caused an obstruction in her daily activities and caused her to stumble back. So she needed to come up with new ideas or new ways so that she could continue. So I'd like to talk about that. The only way where we could become better is find joy in everyday life, help each other move ahead, and always look at the brighter side of things. Thank you.
Thank you, Alankrita. Akshata, you want to add something?
Yeah, sorry for the time constraint. I just wanted to add, I feel the projects which have deepest meaning, even the commercial projects you mentioned, are the projects which are the biggest, the ones which reach most people. Because if they are so big, they are meeting people's demands and they have a huge impact on their lives. The more number of people it reaches, the more meaning it holds in our society and our thought processes. So the more efficient a project is, the more meaning it holds.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Srini sir would like to add something. Srini sir. All right, maybe when he comes back. So now I think it's time for our judges to go to the breakout room and to collate.
I'm here, Krita ma'am.
All right.
I'm here. See, I've been thinking about it long since. See, we have so many electronic devices like FM radios, cell phones. Can we have some system by which it could be remotely turned on? When somebody puts the phone off, we are not able to contact that person. When some emergency is there, we are not able to broadcast messages on the FM radios because that could be off, or they may be on a particular wavelength. If this is done, we can reach out to people at emergency times. That's my idea. We have been thinking, but I have not worked on it. Thank you.
So with this, we have come towards the end of the panel discussion, and now time for the judges to collate the scores. Nebu sir, I would request you to please open the breakout room and please send our judges, Dr. Mathur, Sarvesh, Aarti ma'am, Nagu ma'am, and Nikki ma'am to the breakout room.
Sure, Preeti ma'am, I'm opening the room.
I think, Shweta ma'am, all our judges have moved to the breakout room.
Sarvesh sir is still here, so sir needs to join.
I saw Sarvesh sir log in with, there were two Sarvesh sir. So I
Okay,
think
so he
has
logged in
come.
from multiple things.
Ma'am, I think now we can open the floor to any questions or any opinions if anybody would like to share with us about the panel discussion. So over to you, Shweta ma'am.
Before anyone else speaks, I am very much happy to look at some faces over here, people that I have not seen for quite some time. So we welcome Vibha, Lakshana, as well as Pranav, even though you are there every day. Not in my class, but you're definitely there. We really welcome you all. We really thank you all for taking time out. We understand that you guys are busy. So what I would like to know is, first of all, maybe we'll go winner-wise, year-wise. So Vibha, first it will be you, Lakshana, then you. Pranav, ladies first, so unfortunately you are last. So I would really like to know, what are your experiences? What have you guys been doing since you've obviously achieved the award, since two of you have moved out from our kind of, I think we miss you guys, and we really want to look, we really want to know as to what are you guys doing, and if at all, we've kind of put the kind of, kidas in your head for design thinking, if you've been, thinking on those lines. I know you guys kind of, I think Vibha was quiet, but Pranav and Lakshana did share a couple of things that they were thinking about. So I would really like to listen to you all. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Shweta ma'am. So nice to see you after so long. I've been doing a bunch of things actually recently. Like I said, I'm a second year student at NIFT. My primary focus is obviously in fashion design and visual communication, but I've done some projects voluntarily and associated with organizations as well that revolve around circularity and sustainability and building systems and structures that are purpose driven. So one of my biggest projects this year was studying consumerism and understanding the mindset in which we consume products. And I did an extensively researched art and design project about that. Apart from that, I've been volunteering with the Karnataka government in the past couple of months and assisting a lot of the a project related to textile needs for building market linkages for rural craft communities in Karnataka. And I mean, I think I've just basically been trying to involve myself in meaningful and thoughtful activities. But one thing I have to say is, anytime I'm doing a project or anytime I'm, trying to work on something, the first call I will make is to a fellow Gear Cup, because I know they will be able to think like that as well, because I know they'll be able to relate to the wavelength of thought. And it's so easy for me to, even if I may not have interacted with them in school, but I know for sure that there is something that a Gear Cup has that I genuinely don't find in a lot of other people elsewhere. So I mean, it's been said by everyone, I think, who is, but then when you're still in school, you're like, okay, yeah, maybe that's not so true also. But then I think when you come out of it also, you kind of realize that there's something special about this group of people. Um, there's just one or two thoughts that I'd like to leave you all with based on my learnings in the last, I'm still very young in my journey, and with my limited, exposure, I'd like to mention a few things. One is first of all, I really enjoyed listening to all of you, and I think it so eloquently put by each one of you, and it's so encouraging to see such chiseled thoughts. But what I noticed was everybody was more or less thinking in terms of product. But when you come into the real, like when you kind of dig your feet deeper into this field, you start to realize that there is a lot more than product. You kind of can invest in building systems and structures around around a particular product or something that's intangible, not a product as well. So maybe all of you could, if it interests you, think about product is a great start, but there is a lot more that you can explore to design as well, in terms of policy as well. Somebody mentioned policy also. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, if we as designers need to understand people well, and if we need to design well, we need to be we need to invest in building good human beings also first. So I would say never shy away from investing emotionally, mentally, whatever it is, in yourself, and building your character and building your personality, because the moment you do that, it becomes easy to understand others as well, others who you may not have ever related to also. And that kind of becomes a very big asset as a thoughtful designer. That's about it. I think I've spoken a lot, but happy to see all of you.
Thank you so much. Lakshana, would you like to share something?
Sure. Namaste, all of you. It's really nice to see all of you after so long. Honestly, it doesn't seem like I've left, because I was in gear till maybe April 2021. So it doesn't seem like I've left, because I haven't attended a specific online class or physical class for a very long time now. So yeah, as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm going towards medicine. So even then, after a year, I only had my coaching classes, which got over, and my exam happened in September. Since then, I haven't really done any online classes. So it feels like I never left. It feels like I've been here for the whole time. But it is really nice to see, hear all of you, and hear all the students. And this year, I felt the panel was very different from last year. So it kind of got reiterated on how vast the concept or the field of design thinking is. Because last year we talked more about a perfect solution and how we have not been able to find any perfect solutions. And if we find more problems, we just know that we're moving forward. But this year we talked more about different examples of how you may have used design thinking as a child and not even realized it. So those are completely different perspectives. So I thought that it just got reiterated on how vast the field actually is. So now, me personally, I haven't been doing much at all, because I'm just going to enjoy this 6 months of break, which for the foreseeable future, for 5 years, I don't think I'll be having this kind of break. So for the most part, I'm just sitting and watching TV or reading books. But in some time that I have, as I mentioned earlier, I have been teaching bio on this website, which I got to know through Gear, and I'm really happy that in this setting they've actually given us exposure to such opportunities. And when the students here were talking about mental health and online learning, I really felt like I should share this. Even as a teacher, it's really hard to know that the students have understood. You can't see their faces, and especially if it's online and you don't know the child personally, you don't know how they think. So this is a problem which I've been trying to see how to solve. And as far as I can tell, I usually just like address the learner privately or personally and asking them how they need help, and like more like that. But like extending on this topic, it's hard to, there is a compromise here because it's not physical. You can only do as much as possible, which is the best solution for you right now. Yeah, so other than that, I've also noticed that I've gotten in calls with my friends like every so often, because as a very social person, I'd like to talk to more people physically, but as I can't do that, we just have calls extremely often or text very, very often. So yeah, that's there.
Okay.
And right now I'm just waiting to see which college I get into. Hopefully I'll know in the next 2 weeks, because we're already half a year late. So yeah.
So all the best to you, Lakshana. And I definitely, you now understand how difficult it was it was even on our parts when, we immediately had to shift to a very new and a very different kind of a platform, which at least I don't think if COVID would have hit, none of us would have even assumed that we are going to do. So initially, we also took up that challenge. And Pranav, what I felt like when the judges were asking the questions, I felt like your hand was about to be raised every time they were asking a question. I just don't know. I kept on looking at your face, and it was like, let me answer, give me a chance. It felt like that. So my question to you is a little different, since these guys have gone out and you're still here with us. So how is it different from last year's panel? Lakshana was talking about how different it was then, how it is now. What are your observations, or looking at this new normal kind of study pattern that you've been, experiencing from last 2 years? What are your suggestions? Because most of them are your juniors, apart from the 12th graders, the other 12th graders. Would you like to tell them something, some kind of gyan that you would like to give, which would help them into becoming better design thinkers?
Yeah, okay. So I started, let me start off with, this panel was actually quite great. Like I learned a lot because I was writing notes alongside as you guys were speaking, right? And some of the points you made were really important. And like, to me, they were very valuable. And with regards to what ma'am said, like, if there is anything I want you guys to know, especially if it's online and like, if you want to absorb things, you should focus on expanding your perception. So, you should be able to take as much meaning out of the same few words that you're listening to or saying as you can possibly do, because that's what I've been focusing on in the past 2 years, right? So, since I don't have time to do too much, like Vibha is doing a whole lot of like very interesting things with regards to this. My personal goal is to just be able to understand more for each word that is being said or listened to. So so you should be able to make your own meaning out of, and even add meaning in your head to what has already been said, right? And I actually also wanted to just talk about the panel, and there was a genuine like conflicting viewpoints which I really enjoyed. I think Abhinav talked about the boring company, and I was kind of interested in that because that's a very rich topic, and you can go into that and you can have a discussion within yourself as well with those kind of things. And when you have that conflicting viewpoint, when you have that perception on both sides, you can make a much more informed decision and solutions. Right, so perception, and since I can't really tell about much, but try and interact with whatever you possibly can. Especially the teachers will greatly appreciate the fact that if you're interacting in class, if you're interacting with your friends, it helps in absorbing information, it helps in retaining information, and it'll help you grow as a person. It doesn't feel like wasted time at all. You learn a lot more if you interact with what you're doing. So yeah, I guess that's all I can add.
Thank you so much. So now, see, that is true. Even we on this side, we have been learning a lot. I'm sure we as mentors, as and when we've been doing this design thinking competition, we have evolved. So we have come up with more and more complicated questions. So now my question is to the 10 people, or unfortunately, Naina is not here. So the 9 finalists that we have, out of the rounds that we had, round 1 questions, round 2, we had 2 separate rounds. Which question was very difficult for you to answer or to connect, or if there was a question that you had probably answered in a particular way, but you would like to take a different kind of, approach to it. Did you guys, have something to add on to those questions that, we kind of put you through and troubled you? Otherwise, we'll assume that we were amazing. Okay, so let me try and probably remind you of the questions if you have forgotten. So round 1, we had asked you something about why is it that people are reluctant to get vaccinated, right? And we saw some amazing entries. Did someone, think about it, or was there a point where you couldn't relate to it because either you were very happy to get vaccinated or you were not in that age group where you could get vaccinated or something like that? Anything on the round 2 questions? We had 2 rounds, 2 specific rounds, right? We had an oral and a written one. So in one you had...
Ma'am, can I answer?
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead.
Yeah. Ma'am, I think the second round, we had a question about what subjects would we like to introduce into school. And that's probably the round that I love the most because if I'm being very honest, there are some subjects in school which I just completely despise and I don't want to sit in front and learn them. But giving an opportunity to actually explore what subjects that I would really want to learn and what I would like to be taught in school was actually a really interesting experience. And luckily for me, I had already given a lot of forethought to that, and I had already thought about critical thinking skills and different like it's more than just textbook. I was just talking about this to my mom with my mom a few days ago. In school, we learn 5% of the stuff from the textbook, and the 95% of the stuff that we learn in school is from social interaction, is from learning from peers, and that is the most important thing for me. And for me, learning different subjects that are that don't need to be tested in a very particular way or in a rote way. Learning them in school with the environment of growth actually will benefit a lot of people, and especially me. So,
yeah, I liked your answer, Abhijit. I remember.
Thank you so much. We have all our judges back. I think, Preeti ma'am, it's over to you.
Thank you, Shweta ma'am. I think Dr. M. Shri, Chairman sir, would you please announce the winner? Sir, you're on mute.
Now, I'd like to ask all of you, my dear cubs, would it make a big difference if you came first or not? Anybody would like to answer this? Yes, Akshara.
No, sir, I don't think it would matter because this was entirely just a learning experience. And I think that's what we've gained more than winning.
Wonderful, Akshara. Okay, let's listen to Alankarata.
No, sir, I don't think so. Winning is the most important thing here. I feel so happy that, I got the opportunity to experience different questions asked here today, to listen to others' answers and, learn from their experiences about how they would answer a question, about how to look at different things in different perspectives. So I think it was a great opportunity for me.
Wonderful. Nice thought process. Yes, Amrita.
So to me, I didn't see this as a competition. I was looking at this as a learning experience and learning and listening to my peers.
Yeah, you all have already proved that you are one of the selected or appreciated or prominent ones. Abhinav, what do you say?
So the whole way the panel discussion was formed, the whole having it as a panel discussion, just made me involved in the discussion itself. And the whole idea that this was a competition was just at the back of my head, and it didn't really come across.
Wonderful. We think we are blessed if you feel like that. Yes, Akshata, what do you say?
I think this discussion, what I learned was what design thinking was. When I came here, I didn't even completely understand what I could classify as design thinking. So that was the perspective I gained from it.
Adya?
Yes, sir. Sir, actually, I learned so many things today from all the panelists and the judges. So winning is not important here.
Okay. Akshit?
So I feel like in today's meeting, the judges face the most difficulty because you have to actually figure out who to give the award to. And I feel
So,
everyone put forward good points. So it,
we got your compliment to all the panelists. Wonderful. Anybody else who would like to have a quick response? Okay, all of you are happy. We are extremely happy to see your responses and the level of discussion. And I didn't find any phase, oh my God, how can I answer this? And, a kind of stress on you. We should keep it up like that. And the judges are all praised for you, not because of anything except the way you have conducted yourself, discussed, and the decorum of the conversation. However, we do want to announce the winner, which is customary, that we do extend some scholarships and things like that. And today, again, we have a tie. Last competition, you are a writer also, we had a tie. And I'm happy if all of you score the same also, I'm happy. So today, we have 2 participants. And I also would like to add one point, which may be a point worth for all the boys to know it. In You Are a Writer, all the participants were girls. There is no boy. So naturally, the girls won the scholarship or they were the top. Here, I see a mixed one, and I see 2 boys topping the group. Okay, so Akshit of 12th and Abhijit of 10th are the 2 topmost candidates selected out of the discussion by the judges. And we thank them. We appreciate all their effort and your effort. All the best. Congratulations to all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Over to Preeti ma'am, or who is...
Thank you, sir. Many congratulations, Akshit and Abhijit. Akshit, I would like to hear from you. In fact, all of us, please share your experience of this panel discussion.
Ma'am, it was amazing. I mean, honestly, ma'am, like everybody has been saying, it didn't feel like a competition. It felt more like a discussion. And that's what I really value is when it's a competition, the mindset is different. So it was more of a discussion and I learned a lot today. It was more of like, yeah, I mean, a lot of ideas bounced around and thank you.
Thank you, Akshit. Abhijit, we would like to hear from you as well, your experience.
Yes, ma'am. First of all the judges, thank you so much for this, and I'm really thrilled and honored. My experience over the past, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks that we've had this design thinking competition have been quite interesting, and they've given me a lot of thought-provoking moments. For me, one thing, I think the whole panel discussion, one word has cropped up a lot of times, which has been empathy. And I know that as a world, we are moving forward in a lot of ways. And I think as we move forward, a lot of problems are going to come. And every time there's some development, there's going to be some other problem that we're facing. But empathy and compassion and care are definitely the ways that we will be able to solve these problems and move forward as a society and as a world. So thank you so much for this. And yeah, congrats to all the other panelists.
Akshit, you want to say something?
Sir, I just wanted to take this opportunity because Dr. Mayank is here. So, and I understand, sir, that you have a PhD and you have a lot of experience. I wanted to ask you a question, sir, if you don't mind.
Dr. Mathur, can you ask a question?
I lost you in the last 5 seconds. Can you repeat your question?
Yes, I just wanted
wants
to...
permission to ask a question. Dr. Mank, can he ask a question?
Sure. Absolutely.
Go ahead.
You can ask a question.
Yeah, sir. So
Anytime.
in all these years of experience that you have in the design field, sir, it's more of a two-part question. So what is the one most important thing you've learned from, like, even Srini sir had asked, the roots? And the other thing I want to ask you is, where do you see this industry go in like the next 20, 50 years?
He wants to know how he will be when he's old, like us.
No, I think, Akshit, it's a very, very interesting discussion which I've had so far. And I was just telling Dr. Srinivasan also that some of the ideas which have been put on table are very, 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 very unique, which we haven't in our 20, 30 years of our lives haven't heard about them. So I'm really impressed. That's the first compliment I want to give to everyone here who has just spoken today. The second point, which I think you're asking, is that there are many points at which we apply design thinking as a concept in our lives, starting from taking the decisions in our lives, starting from our +2 to get into a college, to solve the problems there, work on the projects there, discuss about the career options. As my question was also oriented around it, and then the general way of living becomes very design oriented, because we live in a world where it is very critical that we take decisions based on some aspects which rely on these aspects of design thinking as such. And then in our career, in our overall lives, while we are growing and getting into this aspects of doing PhD, of course, was one of the most critical point at which I had to apply a lot of design thinking, because it was all about moving away from a technology field and getting purely into management and working on management related research questions and research problems there, completely different from what I was doing in my earlier life. So applying that concept, doing a mind shift, moving away from my comfort zone into the research area, and now working as an academician into a totally different life. It was a very, very different jump from one mountain to the other, right? It's like you're sitting on a mountain, you're sitting on a pyramid, and then you're asked to move to another pyramid altogether. So those are the times, those are the critical times when you're making big shifts in your life. That is a time, that's when your design thinking aspects come in picture, and that makes you take the right decision. See, there is always a thin line between what is right and what is wrong, right? Something which is right for you could be wrong for me, and vice versa. But then at that point of time, if we are not taking the right decisions, it is very easy for us to collapse, right, and come down to the ground levels. So making those calls in your lives, specifically in those times when you want to make your critical decisions, moving from one, let's say you're deciding on what you want to do next, and then move into that specific college, and then you take a decision around what you want to do for your masters, right? And then what you want to take as your career option, what you want to do in your life as in general. Each of these aspects play a very critical role. So while you are taking those decisions, these kind of foundations around design thinking will help you a lot in your lives.
Thank you, Dr. Mathur. Even I was intending to ask the same to you, to share with us your wealth of experience. Thank you so much for your time and gracing the occasion today.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. It was an honor to be here. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks. All the best. Congratulations to all the winners.
Thank you.
I think we have come towards the end of our event today. So I'll do the customary vote of thanks. So it has been such an honor to be part of this wonderful event, which had such an enriching discussion. On behalf of the organization, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guests, Dr. Mayank Mathur, our beloved Chairman Sir, Dr. M. Srinivasan, Savi Ma'am, our Executive Director, Sarvesh Sir, our dear Principal, Mrs. Nandini Bhatt, Vice Principal, Nagu Ma'am, and IP Ma'am. Thank you so much for guiding us. Our sincere thanks to the internal judges, Sarvesh Sir and Aarti Ma'am. I'm sure it must have been challenging for the judges to choose the winner from our wonderful panelists. A big round of applause and thanks to all the participants who made the event a memorable one. Finally, I would like to thank all the previous year's winners, Pranav, Lakshana, and Vibha, for being such a great sport and giving your time to us. And last but not the least, thank you all for taking the time to be with us today and helping us make this event a grand success. Thank you, one and all.